Cryptocurrencies have experienced a dramatic surge as President Trump announced the establishment of the US Strategic Crypto Reserve. Now, XRP's value skyrocketed from $2.23 to $2.99, boosting its market capitalization by $44 billion in under an hour. SOL has also surged, ADA climbing from 68 cents to $1, and the groundbreaking announcement sending shockwaves through the digital currency market. So, Brad Gastworth, what do you see as Trump's proposed crypto strategic reserve, and what will the assets actually include?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different opinions here, Aaron. I would say from my standpoint, the only one that really made sense, and I think a lot of the, investment professionals are also on the same page here, is Bitcoin. It makes sense to have Bitcoin as being a reserve because of the finite nature, the somewhat finite nature of that currency, digital currency. The others, it's really a head scratcher why Solana and some of these others are included in this batch. But I mean, so there's two ways to look at it. First, it is a positive to have, a major country having, digital currency as a reserve. That's a positive from the perception point of view. But ultimately, there's still, there's a lot of questions on what the fundamentals are on these cryptocurrencies. There's a lot of questions on the usage. I think we're still in a very volatile time for crypto. I still see there's more downside risk here than upside. I know that Trump is a huge fan, but ultimately, I think there's been a tremendous amount of hype. We think seeing things go linear, and I think they're going to continue to pull back here.
Everyone wants to be seen as the home of crypto. Russia does, China does, Singapore does, now the United States as well. Yet we hear from some billionaires out there who say that essentially the US government is bankrolling crypto at the moment. They're pretty skeptical about the reserve's creation.
Yeah, I mean, those are valid points, Aaron. I think if you look at where we are right now, I mean, I think we're sort of throwing a few things out there to see what sticks. I think Trump ultimately, from a U.S. perspective, he definitely wants to make this country better. I mean, that's what his mantra is, and I believe that's what he's truly trying to do. I think the question and some of the critics have is the way that he's going about, going about making this country better. But on the digital currency side, yeah, I mean, we've inflated it here in the near term. I mean, the pre-presidential campaigning and going into this early presidency, there's been a lot of hype and a lot of positive news on the crypto side. But ultimately, there's a lot that needs to be played out and learned before it becomes a mainstream currency. I mean, at the end of the day, it is digital. And if it did get hacked, what does that mean? I mean, there's a lot of concerns and question marks. I do think there's a place for it, but I also think the prices have gotten a little bit off control.
All right, you mentioned Bitcoin. Some experts are arguing that only Bitcoin should be included in the reserve. What's your view on that?
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely. I really think because Bitcoin has more of a finite nature in the number of Bitcoins available. If you look at Ether, I like Ether also from a reserve perspective, but you do have more of an open-ended on Ether. Some of the smaller ones don't make sense to me from a reserve perspective. So I'm very much on board from that. And even as I mentioned earlier, I think Bitcoin, it makes sense to have that as a reserve currency. But I think pricing right here, it's gotten outrageous. And, outside of hype, there really isn't anything else that's really causing that price increase.
Brad Gastworth in Florida. Always appreciate your insights. Thanks.
Thank you, Aaron.